If you're an American, you probably heard your parents say, back in my day, all you needed to get into a good college was a good ACT or SAT score and good grades. Well, it's not your parents' day anymore. For one thing, the pandemic saw many universities abolish standardized test scores. Then they reinstated it recently because the pandemic is over, and then they saw that that might be a useful metric in some way. So, what do universities actually look at when admitting students, if not just GPA and test scores like they used to? In their own words, colleges want to look at the person as a whole. It's called holistic admissions. They'll go, oh, we'll look at your GPA, we'll look at your extracurriculars. Did you start a business? Are you good at sports? Are you related to Scrooge McDuck? Did you summon a malevolent spirit in order to tip the scales in your favor? This holistic admission should be treated like any other slogan a politician throws at you. It's a nice performance art piece because I heavily doubt that any college admissions officer scrutinizes any application that thoroughly. I'm sure they care about your grades mainly because they want to know how well you did, because if you drop out after your first semester or first year, they cannot rake in the loan money, the grants, or your money. But don't worry, I'm sure these students will be useful at the marketing department for one semester. Look, guys, we have women in our engineering program and Asians in our art program. Look at how many first gen college students we're also hosting. Let's ignore how these first gen students have no clue how to navigate collegiate life and that we're merely exploiting their image to make ourselves look better. Who cares if they're searching for a better life and we're just swindling them? And I can certainly mean swindle because these colleges have a lot of money. For those of you who don't know what endowment is, endowments are the sum total of college investments, be it in real estate, stocks, or bonds. This money comes from donors, though donors will have some strings attached to them. I want this $2 million donation to go towards building a new building dedicated to research labs, or refurbishing this old building so you can put my name on it. The college then invests that money into stocks, real estate, and bonds in order to make some percentage of it back, let's say 8% per year. Private institutions like Harvard are loaded at around $50 billion. What's 8% of 50 billion? Around $4 billion. That is more than the nominal GDP of the country of Andorra. Don't think the public schools are free from having massive endowments. They are still measured in billions. Berea College, for example, isn't a public school, but it's still a school with a $1 billion endowment. However, Berea eliminated tuition by using a series of Pell Grants outside scholarships and clever investing in their endowments in order to make sure tuition is never an issue for all their students. These multi-billion-dollar universities would like to argue that there are so many specific limitations on what they can and cannot do with their investments and their donations that they need to mine money from elsewhere, and that elsewhere is you. If that sounds like a nice excuse to you, that's because it is. The reason why this video is captioned "Sell Your Soul at Age 18" because you are indeed selling your soul at that age. The cost of college has exploded several times the rate of inflation. Not just tuition, but housing. Many colleges require you to live on campus your first year. Housing isn't cheap. In addition to the stack of test prep books for college admissions, your investment into clubs and sports because it looks good on an application, the actual being a student part of the whole application process, the end result is crippling debt that you need to sell blood for during and after college. But wait, Cyril, what if I did the smart thing and went to community college? You don't need to take out debt. Well, living is expensive. Yes, that includes fast food. Hope you won the biological lottery because it would be suck getting cancer, a lethal infection, or a vehicular accident. You might as well be the nurse throwing Mr. Krabs off the cliff right here. I'm honestly surprised this isn't the plot of an isekai. Imagine being a miserable as hell college student who wasted their youth trying to get into college only to be miserable in undergrad, end up getting an infection, and getting sent to the hospital, dying, and instead of ending up as a fantasy protagonist, they end up getting the opportunity to live the life they so desperately wanted to live. We're getting off track here. My point was, it's a time, energy, and monetary investment to get into college. It's a financial investment for paying for college. And colleges will try to squeeze every penny out of you as much as they can. Take UMass Amherst, for example. Tuition, $17K a year if you live in state. Housing and food, $9K and $7.6K. Robber barons, are they not? Oh, and did I mention that you're also 18 and I doubt you have a source of income other than your minimum wage job, unless you were like an actor or a YouTube star as a child. I mentioned before how colleges use you as part of their marketing campaigns. If you think the professors and researchers themselves are free from abusing and exploiting their positions in order to harm you, I'm sorry. Professors and researchers totally abuse their power. Take the Dana-Farber Institute. This is a cancer institute affiliated with the Harvard Medical School. They had to retract 6 papers because the data used was forged through Photoshop and other means of photo manipulation. Yikes, that's not a good look when you say screw all the people who could benefit from my research, publish no matter what. Or take the case of President Claudine Gay. It's one thing to plagiarize with improper citation, it's another to get the president clear of misconduct, and then it gets worse when your student body is in revolt because of the double standards placed upon them. After all, if a student did what President Gay did, then the student would be under much worse penalties than what they had to see before them. It's an open secret that abusive behavior, cronyism, and double standards are rampant in academia. Take the University of Wisconsin, for example. I'm just happy that this abuse is coming to light. Basically, a professor drove someone to suicide. If you are a graduate student, you do the work that you are told to do, but you are not afforded the same protections as an employee would be. The Harvard Crimson reports that chores included taking care of children and animals, all with little to no pay. That's nonsense. It's also noted that the heavy power imbalance between professors and students. Students are basically at the mercy of their advisors. Of course, when your relationship with your advisor has such a great importance, you can see how breaking this relationship off or saying no to their absurd requests, like turning you into a babysitter or a dog sitter with no pay, makes this power dynamic abusive. But Cyril, you say, I'm only going into undergrad, not grad school. How would this affect me? Well, if you want to know the true measure of someone's character, look at how they treat the people they have authority over. The name of the game here is harassment and negligence. There have been walkouts and lawsuits dedicated towards sexual harassment not being taken seriously at the university level. So, what's the point in all this raving? Let me put it this way. The days of test scores and GPAs are not long over, they are just part of the pie now. Now you need to be able to be interesting for the marketing department. If you're into something common like a sport, you need to be the best at it. Not the creme de la crap, but the creme de la crop. You can check all the academic and extracurricular boxes and still fail, some of which could be blatant racial profiling. I mean, what kind of person comments, of course he wants to be a doctor, on a commentary for an application? At the end of the day, these institutions are just companies wanting to sell you an experience and believe you will help them by either being on their advertising or just filling their monetary coffers. No matter where you go, you will still be in those lecture halls with professors who are great, good people, but awful professors, or literal abusers. And of course, you might be forced to stay in overpriced dorms because colleges are in a contest to see how nice their dorms can be. Depending on where you go, the professors may care very little about teaching. After all, they got all those grants and Nobel Prizes not for teaching, but for their research. Odds are you will be stuck with a graduate teaching assistant. Then there's the thousands of students and grad students vying for research opportunities at your school in your niche, well, major. For institutions who sell themselves as lands of opportunity and making great people, it seems they want to have success stories first so their marketing department can be satisfied and have an easier time. You're 18. It's your time to truly be an adult. I think it's time to strip away the wrapping paper and say college degrees are not guaranteed paths to success. Remember, success is not a linear path. According to the Wall Street Journal, half of college grads aren't working jobs where they use their degrees. I'm not going to say I'm surprised. Here's some of what my friends from high school did. Adam, he majored in English literature, hoping to be an author or screenwriter. He instead became a high school English teacher. Bernadette, she majored in chemical engineering. Works in a chemical plant, so yeah, she uses her major every day. Charlie majored in history with the desire to become a lawyer. Became an English teacher, not a history teacher. Diane majored in chemical engineering. Works in real estate sales. They're not technical sales or like valves or reactors or anything like that. No, she sells real estate. Edgar majored in chemical engineering. Works in environmental protection. I guess that's tangentially related to chemical engineering, and also ironic since chemical engineers include petroleum engineers who also wreck the environment. Felix majored in pre-med, hoped to go to med school. Now works in research. Gabriel majored in chemical engineering. High school AP US history teacher. Huh. Obviously, I changed the names around, but you can see, not everyone uses the name of their degree as their job title. In fact, more often than not, they tend to pick a field around that degree. The name on your diploma isn't a measure of your success. The degree isn't a measure of your success either. At the end of the day, it's your experiences who will shape who you are as a person and in the job market. Why did Bernadette end up in a chemical plant? Internship experience. Why did Edgar end up in environmental protection? Internship experience. Why did Gabriel end up teaching? Because he coached middle school basketball for years. All he needed was someone to give him a chance. You don't need to tie your value to the name of a school on your diploma. Tie your value to yourself, the sum of experiences, traits, and bonds you have made. Just because you didn't get into Harvard or Yale does not make you stupid. There is no shame in circumventing this expense using free community college. What matters is you. Work smarter and not harder. If you can get perfectly acceptable results at a different school, then go for it. So many people I know tie their value to the perception of perfection and ruin themselves because of it. They internalized that everything is within their control, and that anything bad that happened to them was simply a personal failure. Sometimes it's not in your control. A lot of times, it's not even tangentially within your control. That's okay. That's just life. If you liked this video and want to see a sequel, please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. Please comment about anything you'd like to hear about the college experience. This is Cyril signing off.